What's up, Rotters, and welcome back to Brain Rot, the podcast that takes a deep dive into the best and worst horror films of the 80s and 90s. I'm Stevie, your VHS veteran. Happy October, freaks! It's our time, and I couldn't be happier. I am so up for it this year. I am devouring horror movies all day, day. Just yesterday, I watched The Mutilator as I ate breakfast, and it felt right, guys. It just felt right. I am trying to watch a bunch of films I haven't seen this season. I usually go for a load of staples that I've seen before that guarantee joy, but I'm taking a few punts, and I will report back via Letterboxd if any of them are worth it. On Patreon, we finally finished our Children of the Corn franchise retrospective, and Louise and I were joined by Mike Munzer and Becky Dark to talk about 2009's Children of the Corn, made for the Sci-Fi Channel. Here's what Louise thought of it.
It was dreadful, again. It was just dreadful, again. It was just...
So, if you want to hear that full episode, and in fact all of the Corn episodes, just head to patreon.com/Stevie's Brain Rot and join the harvest. This week, we're kicking off spooky season in bloody style. We will be talking all things Waxwork from 1988, directed by Anthony Hickox, who had such a brilliant run in the late 80s and early 90s with this and its sequel, Lost in Time, Hellraiser 3, Warlock the Armageddon, and even Sundown, the Vampire in Retreat. I stan Anthony Hickox. Joining me to work the wax is the incredibly knowledgeable and very funny Zoran Gvojic, aka the Zoran. You don't mess with the Zoran. As well as being the editor of Dead Meat's legendary Kill Count series, his own YouTube channel, Low Carb Comedy, is right up your street, trust me, including his viral music video hit Social Mediasochist, as well as the hilarious They Talk series and heaps of other funny shit. This chat is the first chat I've ever had doing this podcast that required zero editing. Although this was our first time speaking in the flesh, Zoran immediately felt like a kindred spirit, and I have no doubt you're going to feel the same. Zoran, welcome to Brain Rot.
Well, thank you. It is so exciting to be here. I can't believe it.
I'm super excited. How are you, first of all?
I am doing well. You're catching me almost exactly a week from my wedding.
Whoa!
I'm going to get married on October 1st. I want to start off Halloween month correct.
I was going to say, was that deliberate in our Christmas month?
Yes, my fiance Megan Gorman said, she's like, I always imagined we were getting married in October. I said, done.
Amazing.
Perfect.
Oh my gosh.
October 1st.
The dream. Yeah. Oh, congratulations. That's very exciting.
Thank you. Very, very excited.
Hell yeah. Are you going to have I was going to say a horror-themed wedding, but I forget that not everyone is like us. So the guests would have to endure that.
I will say it is very fandom-based, so there's a lot of fan elements around there. And, of course, since I'm a fan of horror, there will be some horror elements there, but not an excessive amount, so that it's still a nice wedding.
Yes. Not a blood wedding. Mm-hmm. So, do you know the craziest thing and the best thing, I think, about the horror community? Like, I feel like already, like, I know you. There's just this immediate familiarity that we have, and I think it's so special and crazy, and I don't see it nearly anywhere else. Just there's certain fandoms that are nice, and there's a kinship, and it's not... There's no competition. Do you know what I mean? There's something about horror that's so warm.
I mean, horror fans are some of the nicest fans in the world, you know, working for Dead Meat and hearing responses and things. A majority of them are really, really, really nice. There's a few people that don't like me in the Dead Meat community, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah, I think the older I get, the more I'm coming to terms with the fact that not everyone will like me, and it took me a long time because that's what I used to focus on when I found out. And especially if I've done nothing wrong to that person, just someone who just doesn't like me, doesn't get me, and it used to drive me mental. And now I love it because I just want to be left alone. And so it's great when people don't like me because they just don't bother me. So,
that's really nice. Yeah, when you get older, it's just like, That's their problem. That's nothing that's going to affect me. Sorry.
Nope.
I'm going to live my life. I'm not hurting anyone. Just going to keep doing the things that I do. But
Yeah.
hey, I like you. That's why I messaged you randomly on Twitter and went, I really like your
totally
show.
slid into my DMs.
Yeah.
It was awesome. No, I like that. But yes, so saying how I feel like I know you. However, I don't know you yet. So
true.
let's correct that. No, let's
Fair.
correct it. So let's go back. I want your horror origin story. So your origin story. The Zora origin.
There it is. You got it. We
I
got
knew
there
there was
eventually.
something there. I should have planned that. The Zora origin. Yeah. So where were you raised, and what was horror like, and how accessible was it, and what got you into it?
Well, I was raised in a suburb of Chicago in Illinois called Downers Grove.
Chicago.
That's
is
where.
that good?
Yeah, I don't
Get in the
have
car.
an accent. I escaped
No.
Chicago without any kind of accent.
You did. Well done.
But yeah, so I grew up there, and I was pretty much introduced to horror by my mom, who showed me stuff that she thought was really fun way before I should have been seeing it. But she would kind of self-edit it and have me cover my eyes when there was like something super violent or super, or like nudity or something like that. And as a young kid, I would just go, sure, Mom, whatever you say. And then eventually I learned I could peek through my hands and see things.
That old trick.
Watching Aliens and I remember the first horror movie that really freaked me out and scared me was The Gate, which you covered with Anthony
Head,
and his daughter, right?
Yes, that's right.
there it
Yeah,
is.
and Emily, yeah.
See, I'm a fan. It's true. I'm a
The
fan.
heads. Yes, you are.
But yeah, The Gate freaked me out from the hands coming out under the bed. And that is what stopped me from going anywhere near the edge of a bed for a very long time. I would literally run and jump into the bed, not to be anywhere near it. So I credit my mom a lot for getting me into the horror. And then I just started falling in love with it and finding all these things. And then I remember seeing Army of Darkness with a friend, which is not full horror, but I really loved it. And then it was years before I found out there's a Evil Dead 1 and 2. I thought it was just Army of Darkness. That's it. I was fine with just that, but there's more.
Right.
And so now I've seen so much stuff, so much horror stuff.
Yeah. When you talk about, so the two films you mentioned there, so you're looking, let's say The Gate and Army of Darkness, they're quite, I'm not going to say tame, but they can be seen as gateway films, And so when did you start to see the nasty stuff, and was it the same reaction, or was it a bit much for you, or were you like, oh yeah, I want more of this, I want the
let's
guts?
See. I remember getting freaked out. It was another tame one, I guess. Little Shop of Horrors freaked me out. I had to shut that off because I thought Seymour was going to get eaten, and then he didn't until I watched the director's cut, and then I got really depressed when I saw that Seymour dies. I'm like, oh man.
Everyone does.
Yeah. But then horror, started getting the gore and things like that. It was probably Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street was my first kind of slasher entrance with my buddy Mark Kleinfelder. He would show me that because his dad would rent those movies. His dad said, I love Freddy. Freddy kills teenagers. He's great. So I'm like, all right, cool. So we would watch the Nightmare on Elm Streets. And so I ravenously went through all of those. And then I remember the peak for me was Dead Alive. Also Brain Dead.
Brain Dead, yeah.
Yeah. That one was just this is the goriest, and that certain scenes would make me sick, but also fascinated. And it's also that same vein that I really love horror comedy and the splat stick style of Evil Dead 2 and all of that. So I think horror and comedy just go so well together, and that's kind of become my bread and butter.
Yeah, right. But it's also one of the hardest things to get right, as I'm sure you know. I tense up when I started to watch a film and it is described as horror comedy, because it just fails so often, and then you get the rare thing. But I don't think they do it quite in the same way anymore, and a lot of it relies on nostalgia and really sort of tacky gags that I just had to review a couple of films that, Trauma doesn't work anymore we're not in that place anymore. That
Sorry,
style.
I'm shaking my head no. Trauma.
Yeah.
Trauma is not for me. I respect what Trauma does and everything.
Yeah.
Their
Same.
style of film is absolutely not for me because it's knowingly offensive. It's
exactly.
Like,
it's shock factor.
It's the same as like in some ways not the same, but Sharknado is like purposely bad. We're doing the thing, and we all know we're doing the thing. And the best bad stuff is the stuff where it's honest people trying to do their best work and being like, this is going to be the greatest Oscar level movie ever.
Yes, exactly.
And failing miserably. There's a
when it's
love
played
that
earnestly.
and you have a love for it, for the people to just be like, you tried. I don't know how you made this decision, but you try. And there is so much love behind the scenes of these things. It's any of the soulless stuff that's made for money that you can tell was made to like hit a demographic or something like that. You're like, not as good. But the earnest, like, we just wanted to make a movie and we wanted to make the best movie ever, and it just didn't work. And
that's mostly the films. Yeah, that's mostly the films I that I cover. It is those that are they set out with the best intentions, and that's what's even more hilarious about it. So do you watch when you're not doing it for work? What do you lean towards if you want to like throw on a film? Do you put on a slasher, or do you have a favorite subgenre?
No, I mean, I guess I lean towards slashers in a lot of ways. Creatures, I love creatures. Creatures are always interesting to me. I don't like ghosty movies as much. Haunting things. I say that all horror is formulaic, but they are just like, and we go to this house, and we're stuck at this house for a reason, and a little thing happens. Then the next night, a little more happens, and a little more happens. All right, time to leave. And then the ghost's like, well, better pull out all the guns. They want to leave. It's just,
That's
okay.
true.
And a lot of it is when it's humans, and they're, it's a human ghost, and they have to reason with it, and it's like...
Yes.
So that's why I think I
release it, or
Yeah, Paranormal Activity was better because that was a demon that was like,
Yeah,
wherever
right.
you go, it's coming with you, and it's like, well, I'm screwed.
Yeah, it's not a lost soul.
Yeah, it's not I gotta find the mission. I gotta go through the microfiche montage and research and revelations and all that stuff. So
she was murdered by her father. It's always that.
In this house.
Yes. And also, well, I suppose I have different horror for different purposes. Like, it's a therapy at your fingertips, and you can just decide what it is that you need that day.
What is your go-to? Like, just I'm throwing something on.
Well, I've got a lot of super, super obscure, like Vinegar Syndrome stuff. And so I've got, like, shelves and shelves of Vinegar Syndrome, and I'd say 70% of them I haven't seen. So I love picking up a horror film from my collection that I have never seen, that has existed for nearly 40 years, and that experience is, there's nothing like it, and I try not to do it often because I don't want to run out, but then it just feels like it's impossible. Just when you think you've heard of every film, they unearth a new 10, and you're like, what? I didn't even know that was made. It's crazy. So I love just pulling one off the shelf that's called, Flesh Eating Mothers, and then stick it on.
Great. That's absolutely perfect. I'm glad that you
that
have
does it for me.
that access to that collection. That for me is like Tubi right now. The streaming service Tubi has a ton of just obscure 80s things that I would just be like, oh, I remember that VHS cover. I know that cover. I know what those, and I'm like, I never got to see that movie, so I started watching stuff
that's
like
great.
that.
Yeah, it's the same. There's one called Plex, which is a free streaming service, and it'll just have like The Dentist 2, and you go, oh my god, I forgot about that, or Leprechaun 5 Into Hood, or whatever.
Never forget The Dentist 2.
No,
everything's so filthy and dirty, and
it's the sleaziest.
General as a dentist, Dr. Feinstein, something like that.
Yeah, sure. I'll buy it.
I
That sounds right.
I am aware of the Dentist movies very much, and I know James really loves those movies, and so
I think is it Brian Usner even? I think possibly
one of at least.
There you go. The first one definitely.
Yeah, some of the close-up like teeth stuff and
yes.
Okay,
yeah, classic. Classic. So then we will talk about the film eventually, but I'm really enjoying getting to know you. But so how did Dead Meat happen? So you've been editor Dead Meat since like 2006 or something, is that right?
No, I have been with Dead Meat since 2018. 2018 it was Dead Meat.
I'm only like 12 years out.
No, but I've been doing my own stuff since 2004, basically. Before YouTube, I would post little 320 by 240 quick times of sketches.
Times!
Before my website was lowcarbcomedy.com, it was please dear God give us a job.com. but no one could remember that title, so I changed it to Low Carb Comedy, which I just thought was funny at the time that low carb diets were a fad, and now I'm just stuck with it forever.
No, but it's great. They always will be, though.
Yeah, and so then Dead Meat, that was a fun confluence of things. John Massari, the composer of Killer Clowns from Outer Space, posted a video on YouTube that was from this orchestral version of the score he was doing. And I commented on it being like, that's amazing. I'd love to hear more. And then he like messaged me. He said like, follow me on social. So I did. And he messaged me. And then he learned of my YouTube channel, Low Carb Comedy. And I got all these notifications. John Massari liked this post, comment on this post, comment. He went through like my whole catalog of stuff. And so then I became friends with John. And he invited me to the Killer Clowns from Outer Space concert that he did, where he did the live orchestral score to the movie. It was amazing. And James was there, and I got interviewed. And so people could see that interview on his Dead Meat channel, where I was wearing a top hat and coattails and everything and really decked out for this amazing event. And from there, I'd actually email James to go, hey, if you ever need editing help, let me know. Never responded. Nothing. And then he was live streaming one time. I popped in and said, and someone asked him, what's the part you hate the most? He's like, oh, I hate covering all the footage and these edits and everything. And I just went, I could do that. And so he gave me a chance for the first movie I did was Ice Cream Man with Clint Howard. And that was the first kill count I ever covered. And then from there, I started doing coverage and eventually just continued to work till I was able to make my own show, They Talk. And then...
I was just going to say, I love it. It's,
thank
it's
you.
so stupid and it's so fun. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
I know, and I really do want to do a season 2, whoever is out. I want to do it, but been so slammed with wedding, and I also do voiceover work, and and kill counts and everything when I did all the Tremors kill counts and everything.
Yeah, you've been doing those, and I loved your Tremors kill counts.
Thank you very much.
But also, thank you for watching them so we don't have to, because it's that's a crazy franchise.
Hey, there is something that you can take something out of each of them. I mean, for the sheer ballsiness that Part 6 did Sand for Snow. They filmed sand dunes and tinted it blue. I'll give them that. Be like, we're doing it. We're just doing it. It's the only movie to film Sand for Snow that I know of.
Yes,
but,
it's wonderful. And also, I'd love you to do your live script readings. I'd love that to come back.
Oh, my unproduced live? Yeah.
Yes, I want to do Jaws 3 People Zero.
Yeah, I was going to do a second season of that. I just don't have enough time in my day
when you
to
do,
get all that.
Give me a call. I'm in that one.
Yeah, you're going to have to get a lot of voices. I hope you do a lot of voices.
Well, yes,
switch you to, like, all the different things.
Of course.
Arnold Schwarzenegger being the number one that you'll have to figure out how to do.
Okay, sorted. I'll work on it. So that brings us to 1988 and Waxwork. So what's your relationship with this movie?
Wow. I honestly could not remember the first time that I watched this movie, but I do remember quoting it all the time, again with my buddy Mark Kleinfelder, where we'd always say, like, would you like a closer look? And then push each other. I think that's always what it was. We'd just push each other into things. But I just remember watching this movie and just falling in love with the tone and the effects. And I was like, oh, Zach Galligan from Gremlins. Yay!
Right.
He's in other things. He's not just in Gremlins. I'm excited.
Right. Not many other things, but sadly, I think.
I like the man. He's got good acting chops. That's the thing I'm saying. There you go.
Yes. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Keep that going. Yeah. For me, this it's basically this movie is. It's the pinnacle of 80s schlock and practical effects. I feel like the 80s was leading to this, basically. For me, when I was younger, the creatures and the effects in this from Bob Keane and his crew were... Dude, I just got a fucking shiver just talking about it then. And people don't understand that. They don't understand what happens to me and why a jolty werewolf with limited movement blows my mind. And of course, effects have moved on and they've improved beyond all belief and imagination, but it's like an amygdala thing. Like, it sets something off in my brain when I rewatch this. It's recognition and it's nostalgia and it's appreciation more than anything. And that will never leave me. And then finding out that, he would work apparently 18 hours a day for 8 weeks creating these monsters. And that means so much to me because he created it for me, for those eyes back then. And so this just... It's basically, this is an anthology without having to call itself an anthology, isn't it? Because there are all these vignettes, and it was my chocolate factory, basically, when I was younger. It blew my mind.
It's odd that you said that, because the main guy's dressed like Willy Wonka at one point.
Oh my God, of course he is. Yes,
of course he is.
David Warner.
He's David Warner, full in Willy Wonka, just standing there like, hello.
Maybe that's subconsciously why I said that. And Zach Galligan, again, I recognised him, obviously, because Gremlins, that's a big gateway horror for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird that his career didn't pick up the way I feel like it should, because he's got the acting chops, as you say, and he's got the looks. But let's get into it. Let's talk about sort of our favourite bits and stuff. Before that, though, do you have a synopsis for me?
Oh, I have a synopsis. We'll see how this goes. All right, so synopsis for Waxworks. Vestron's attempt at a dark universe succeeds where Universal failed. All the classic Universal monsters are here. The Mummy, Dracula, Invisible Man, and the Carnival Snake Lady. And more. All in their royalty-free forms. What begins as an invitation to a midnight Waxworks party no teenager can resist. They are teenagers, right? We'll get into that. Yeah. It all ends as a PSA against kink-shaming sadomasochists. Starring the guy from Gremlins and that scientist that helped make the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Very good.
5 stars.
I like that. Yes, I'm glad you brought up this, the masochism. We'll get to that towards the end, because I was like, it's, you kind of go, did she know that beforehand, or is this an epiphany? Like, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yes,
Kink
a taste of
shaming,
things to come.
Yes, quite. Even the opening, I think they don't do the credits like this anymore. Just literally credits where they make a feature of it and you watch them all. You see all the names. They're not dedicated to the bottom corner. They have a whole part of the movie for themselves. I have a question immediately though. So this setup that Mark is from this upper class hoity-toity family, is there a reason that escaped me? It feels like they're really pointing it out for significance.
Wait,
but
a reason why he's from this family?
Yeah.
I mean, it's his ancestor is kind of this demon fighter or whatever. So
that's right. Okay.
That's, I think, who we see die in the opening. I think that's what we see in the opening. The person's head that's put in the fire is, I think...
Oh, God, of course.
I think it's like a flashback. That we're seeing that, and then the artifacts are being stolen, and those artifacts are then put into the Waxwork. This is a well-written script that Anthony Hickox made in 3 days. 3 days he wrote this script.
That's crazy.
And he's like,
I'm a
not
fan
much
of
change.
his work.
I'm a big fan of, like, yeah. And I watched a big interview with him, and he's just like he's like, I just made these, I did what I could. Like, oh, yeah.
Sure, 3 days.
3 days he wrote that script.
Awesome.
And... yeah, so that's what that opening is. And the opening is set to, like, it's not ska music, but it's like a jump jive. Like, I'm like, what is happening? The logo has this music over it. People are getting murdered. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
When that music kicks off, you have no idea what you're in for. It's preposterous. And I suppose it does set the tone, because this does list itself as a horror comedy, and I mean, I don't know if I see that so much. I mean, I do think immediately when the girls are like, I've never noticed this waxwork before, and they kind of brush it off really casually. I suppose that's the humor. I suppose it's subtle humor, which is clever.
Yeah, I say it definitely is. This one itself is more horror than comedy. They still have those moments, and there's tongue-in-cheek ridiculous like lines and things like that. Like, suffering, we're living in America.
Yes.
Like, no one suffers in America, come on.
Subtle.
And like the dinner scene where he's talking to his mom behind the plant, like there's just like a plant in half the screen, and then he like looks over and then goes back to just like half a plant covering his face. There's a lot of comedy in there that I think the director wanted to push, and that's why Waxwork 2 did more comedy and became kind of a lot more parody. And a lot of these things are, they're parodies in some ways of classic horror movies and things of that nature. So that opening definitely sets the tone of like, here's a gruesome murder of someone being lit on fire. Again, practical fire stunts, always amazing to see. And we're setting it against Hodder? This music. I don't think it was Kane Hodder. I don't know. I didn't look it up.
Oh, I think he was definitely involved in this. He definitely,
okay, then maybe he did.
Well, I don't know if he did that, but I know he played I think he's the Invisible Man at the end.
It seems like a big invisible man. Like, it's a bit bulky for Invisible Man.
Also not like him to hide his face. Like he normally likes to make sure he gets on screen.
Mm-hmm. So I definitely see the horror comedy there, and that's why he's from this rich family, and he's stuck up, spoiled, and then so he has a character arc to kind of become a hero. Yeah,
it feels British. It feels British comedy. It's more Monty Python, and because Anthony Hickox is British, right? And so I think that's probably where the comedy lies, and that as you say, like the framing of poking out behind the plant or whatever, that feels much more British. Yeah, I like it. What do you think then of David Warner as our Willy Wonka?
Oh my God,
he does the job.
I love seeing that man in whatever it is. It turns out that I saw that he was on a mini-series that Anthony Hickox was an extra in the background, and they'd met before this offer for the movie, and so he kind of said, I kind of did it because I felt bad that I didn't remember him from this miniseries, and he was like, oh, he's got this chance, yeah, I'll help him out, sure, this is great. And it goes to the set of this was very like everyone kind of hands-on chipping in for the small amount of budget that they had for this. I think it was like 3.5 million budget or something like that. But I'd love seeing that man in anything that he just pops up like, oh, David Warner's here. This is gonna go good. Whatever it is.
And he's got one of those. I always think he's got quite a cheeky face. There's something I can never take him fully seriously, and that's what the charm about him. And he's of that generation, I think, and that's just how they were built. And I think he's perfect in it. I think quite a few, or was it Wilfred? Quite a few people like Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, I think, were considered for this.
Oh, absolutely, because this is very much a love of Hammer horror kind of stuff and things of that nature. So they probably try to get a lot of those peoples. But there's a few cameos of folks in here.
Yeah, and like I loved. I remember recognizing Mihaly Mazaros, who plays Junior or Hans when he opens the door, the little person, because he's in Warlock 2: The Armageddon, which was an absolute favorite.
And that's another Hickox movie.
Anthony Hickox, yes.
So he loves to work with the same
and Zach
people.
Galligan's in that. Mm-hmm. Yep. There you go, full circle. When the doors open to exhibit, to the exhibit, not the rapper. There's just a waxwork of him pimping a car. That's the first thing
this movie.
See.
This is the 80s. All right, cool. I'll go with it.
It's where the magic begins, though. It's also stupid, and I love it. Not one waxwork manages to stay still when the camera's on them.
No, I think the only
incredible.
One that I noticed was maybe the Invisible Man in the foreground kind of putting the gas into the one person's mouth. Like, I think the Invisible Man was like awkwardly enough that it was that, but every other one is just slightly swaying, trying so hard not to breathe.
Amazing.
Like, please, like they have hands like in the foreground that are just like,
just trembling.
I've been holding this position for so long.
Right. That's the thing you can imagine.
So
like even by take 3, your muscles are spasming, your eyes are drying out. It's hilarious. And especially now, because obviously we're watching it with like a 2K scan, so it's even more obvious. You probably got away with it back then with the fuzziness. The magic of upscaling has completely exposed them. It's wonderful.
Oh, yeah. No, it exposes all kinds of the effects and everything. There's a split screen at one point where it's like, film grain is not moving on this half of the screen. Film grain is all over this half of the screen. Okay. I think something's about to happen on this half over here. It's like when you see the books in Scooby-Doo in the background, like, one of those books is brightly
really well
colored.
Drawn. Yes.
I think they might touch that book.
I used to love doing that when I was watching it. Always checking out, that's going to move, and you know exactly which book they're going to pull to open the secret passage. Yeah, very good. But the first vignette is the werewolf with Tony. What do you think of this? It's perfect. It's perfection, and also it sets up how gory this is going to be.
Yeah, but this watch, I've noticed how much these characters are trying to rationalize why they're okay with what's happening. And this guy comes in, he's like, someone put acid in my drink.
Yeah. Yes. Again.
And then he goes, wait a minute, I quit drinking. Oh, I must have been hypnotized. You literally walked into an exhibit and are now in another world. You're like, I guess I'm hypnotized. So he's just shouting at people all the time, like, oh, very funny. Why couldn't you make it a beach with a bikini lady? Just like the rationalization so we can we good? Let's move on to the fun now.
Right, yeah. I love that's the list. They're the only possibilities as well. It's acid. No. Hypnotization.
Nope, it's hypnotization. Yep.
And as you say, it's like, right, we've dealt with the why, now we can do the action.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the werewolf with its little animatronic snout. It's very much a howling werewolf, it feels like.
It does. It felt very, I don't know why I always think of it like a kangaroo in some way. Like the ears being so long were just weird. And I'd never seen a werewolf, I feel like that. I hadn't seen The Howling before this. I watched the Howling series recently and a franchise marathon and could not make it through.
Oh my God. I was about to say, no, there's no way you can't get through that. Because I know we've spoken when we were chatting online about we love doing it, running through a franchise. You did all the Puppet Masters. And
every Halloween, 7 years. Mm-hmm.
I just finished The Children of the Corn finally today. We recorded the final episode, the 13th or 12th one or whatever it was. That's rough. But The Howling, there's no way. I wouldn't never put myself through that. Because there's one, I want to say it's number 5, where nothing happens. It's in like a dust castle? Town.
Or
no, maybe it's not that.
There's the one that's like on digital video that I didn't even make it to. That's like so hard to find that I was like, I couldn't even make it through. One of them is just like all in a castle. It's all POV shots and there's like no werewolf. I'm like,
yeah,
like
maybe it is
Jeff
that.
Goldblum going, yeah, there's werewolves in your werewolf movie.
Right.
They were not.
Yeah, bad. But yeah.
But this werewolf is great.
Yay!
I love this werewolf. Of course, John Rhys Davies randomly.
Wow.
Just there. He is amazing. I love that man. Just ever since Indiana Jones and then Sliders. I loved him in Sliders.
Fucking Sliders. I used to watch that with my dad. I loved it. But he commits. He's going full method as a werewolf. And then you get your bladder effect. And it's just... I love that such a great setup.
You could tell the budget on this one being lower. They still did a ton with it, but it's like he's turning into a werewolf. Let's send the guy outside, have him talk for a bit, and come back in. Oh, there's a werewolf.
It's done.
And then we get a little one of him, which is just like cut to him, randomly cut away to something else on the floor, cut back to him, cut over here,
and
cut back to him.
Yeah. Lots of cut.
But yeah, his little bladders like in his head when
the
Tony
forehead
is changing, he's like
yeah.
Loved it.
Beast within.
And the guy getting torn in half, absolutely.
That's what I mean. That's when you realize they're not playing, like they're not holding punches. And this movie got ripped by the MPAA, so this is, and they haven't put all that back in. So this is the version that was shown back then, and it just makes you wonder what else was in it. Because we're coming to it. The blood. It kind of shocked me rewatching this because I feel like a lot of where we moved onto after this into the 90s, it kind of took a step back from the excessive blood. Like, this is so over the top. When you think of the mid-90s slashers, they're relatively tame, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a lot cleaner. There's always like the 90s have like a clean sheen of like almost a sterility on some things.
That Miramax sheen.
You still get some gore and stuff. I remember like Revenge. A Return of the Living Dead 3 was I think in the 90s,
my favorite.
But that's still
the brand news now.
Yeah, and so that one still has things. But yeah, once you got into Scream, kind of, it had the gore of like, but it went more
realistic.
Yeah, and we had less of the like splatty, like massive amounts of blood and things like that, and that's what makes it more comedic. Is the ridiculous amount, super red blood and just everywhere, and like, okay, this is not real. This is like anime characters getting slashed and blood erupting from them, like blood pressure off the charts. They should see a doctor.
Right. Yes, right. Those arteries are the pressure in those. Yeah, it's like Wednesday and Pugsley's show Exactly, it's that. It's so
Yeah,
stupid.
it's that
But
level.
yeah, it was a difficult transition for me going into the realism of the 90s because I missed the blood. And but talking about that, the sequence, the Dracula sequence, I remember it used to kind of bore me, the banquet setup, and I think,
Yeah.
because I hate romantic vampires. And vampires are one of my least subgenres anyway, but any kind of interview with a vampire or anything like that, I can't bear it.
Well,
but
this
the
was like
bathhouse-
very much an Anne Rice vampire, I feel, before
Yes.
there'd ever been like an Anne Rice vampire on screen. And
I guess, yeah.
This Dracula, have you seen True Blood? Did you watch True
Yes,
Blood at
but
all?
not all. I've only seen a couple of them.
Well, just was it Alexander Skarsgård's Eric
Yes.
character sounds just like this vampire in my mind. Like I was watching it with my fiance Megan, and she's just like, "Oh yeah, that just sounds like Eric from True Blood." So I'm like, I wonder if Skarsgård watched this for his research.
He based it
I'd be like, I'm gonna base my vampire off that one I saw in Waxworks all those years ago.
1988.
Yeah, that's the best vampire I've ever seen. It's just, oh yes,
Sure.
yes, steak tartare.
It's that. Yeah. It's that. That's what I just. It's never done it for me. That sort of.
The blood is so
Renaissance
gross.
vampire.
That, like the what they're eating is really gross, and apparently
Especially the
MPAA
sauce.
wise, yeah. Well, they couldn't show anyone actually eating, like physically putting it in their mouth or something. They just like dribble blood later or something like that. That was like a cut he had to
Right.
make, and it turns out that it was actually just like watermelon and fruit pieces.
Right, rhubarb.
And have you eaten like fake blood or anything like that, like the corn syrup?
I mean, I have it in my mouth every Halloween.
Okay,
At some
yeah,
point.
because it's so sickeningly sweet that I felt
Yeah.
bad for like having to eat so much of that sugary, just like, oh
Yeah.
god, it's so much.
Yeah. But this whole, when they go down to the bathhouse basement, it's the most unnecessary amount of blood, and it's one of my favorite 80s sequences, this whole bit, even from just the guy with his leg being chewed up, and that one vampire chick who gets impaled on 3 bottles of champagne.
And the champagne's erupting on her, so
Yes,
she's getting
it is.
champagne on her, then blood, then she like stabs them all, and the blood's just like erupting all over this white set that must have smelled just terrible by
It's
the end of the day,
wonderful.
and just be sticky and gross.
Yeah.
And I love just the just like, honey, I'm really sorry that we can't get married, but they've eaten my leg.
Yes. That's very Monty Python. All
Yeah,
that.
it's very Monty
it's great.
Python. With the little rat there, and then the guy, like, it's creepy that the guy just like eats a piece and then like goes after her, and
Yeah,
oh,
it's gross.
it's super gross. It's a great set piece, and that takes me to the Anthony Hickox always said that he wanted this movie to basically be, I want to just show the best 10 minutes of every monster movie. That's
Oh,
what
right,
each
there you
vignette
go.
is. He's just like, I want to get to the point where we see the monster, and it's just like whatever the best 10 minutes of a werewolf movie, the best 10 of a vampire, best 10 of that. That was the basis of this kind of idea that he had.
That's
brilliant.
perfect. That's genius.
Yeah.
It's the greatest hits of all of your favorites. And yeah, that makes so much sense now. And it's exactly that. It's the climax of all of those separate films. Oh, so good. And then, of course, that ends with a head explosion. I really want to make, I don't know if anyone's done it, I want to make a compilation of 80s horror head explosions. There's so many more than I remember, honestly. And doing this podcast has made me discover so many that you'd never expect to be in certain films. Actually, it sounds like your kind of thing.
Oh,
You should
yeah.
do that at some point for your channel.
Oh, just a mashup of head
80s
explosions.
heads.
Yeah,
Yeah.
YouTube doesn't like gore, and we have fought YouTube so much, and we had to blur so many things, and they
Really?
age restrict it, which means you can't monetize it as well, and it doesn't get as many views, and it's a
Wow.
whole thing. It's very weird, certain things that you can and can't do, and my music video social media ask has been age restricted multiple times, and I say, dude, this one is so tame compared to the second one, and you haven't age restricted the second one, please don't.
Right.
Because that's got a head getting split in half.
Right.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, it's the tone. And for this, this kind of gore, it's ridiculous over the top gore. Realistic gore and violence with the intent of it being really visceral is, I understand censoring that more. This to me is like, it's the same as a cartoon, and the same you can see on like the CW, like on Supernatural. They were doing decapitations and head thing and blood everywhere, no issues, on a network channel.
Right.
Yeah, but everything gets censored. Everything in the area was freaking out, And, it made messed up people like you and me. Like, we're really terrible human beings.
Right.
I could
Of course,
just,
we're
I could just tell.
deviants.
Yeah, we're deviants.
Yeah,
Terrible
absolutely.
deviants. I mean,
Yeah.
no man should love Tremors as much as I do. I'm a deviant.
No, it's special though. It's special, Tremors. It really is. Yep, I love that. I always think it's really weird that Mark and Sarah are just allowed to leave, like, casually.
Yeah,
But
I was like...
it's just so, like, isn't there, like, a prophecy? They're desperately trying
They're
to...
trying to hit by a certain time. I don't think we know the exact time, but they're like, we need 6 more. We have 18
6, yes.
total. 18
Yes.
divided by 3 is 6, 6, and 6. And we did
Yeah,
the evil
that
math.
is convoluted. No, that whole when he goes to his godfather and he gives the backstory and explanation. Every time I've seen this, the only thing I come away with is all I know is they have to burn down the Waxwork Museum.
That's
other
all
stuff,
the scene
I have
was.
No idea.
It
Yes.
was them just, again, 3 days he wrote this, and he's like, yeah, and then, what is it, 666, put 3 of the, all right, great, we'll do that math.
His
and then,
grandfather did that, and then he stole the Waxwork from him.
I liked it. The grandfather just, at one point in his little wheelchair, just wheels away and continues talking, like, so far away, and they're like, should we follow him into the other
Right.
room with the books, or should we just stay here? Cool. I think he's coming back. Oh, he's back. Okay, and he's explaining it, so we're good.
Yeah, it's that moment of going, how long do we wait to see if he's coming back?
Oh my God.
Though I like the mummy sequence as well. It just feels really goosebumps, this one. It's so much fun, and I love the design.
Yeah, and it's almost it feels a little Tales from the Crypt, too. Like, all these little
Yes.
vignettes feel kind of Tales from the Crypt. In fact, that, like, font
very.
that opens the movie feels very, like, opening of Tales from the Crypt.
Yes.
And then that amazing animated Waxwork title that comes on.
It's gorgeous.
But yeah, the Mummy was great. Like, someone's head gets squished, and I'm like, I've never seen the Mummy be so
Active.
active and things.
Yeah.
Maybe the probably most active one was like Tales from the Dark Side. There's I think a mummy in that one.
I haven't seen it for so long.
It's with Christian Slater and
right.
Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one, it was like there's some actual like gore and things, because the Mummy was always just like, he's coming towards you, what's he gonna do? Like,
Right.
oh, he's messed up and he's putting people on spears, and then that one woman who's just terrified on the floor, sitting at an angle she shouldn't be sitting at a low angle shot, and her legs are like splayed in this short shirt. I'm just like,
That was a choice.
it was a choice. This was a choice that she's just
I thought that was
screaming
really
here.
odd.
Like,
It's like she's
okay.
in a birthing sort of position.
Yeah,
It's
she's
very
kind of.
interesting.
She might as well have stirrups in there,
Crowning.
right there, crowning terror.
Lovely.
But yeah, and then I the stupid things that I now notice watching these movies again is they open up this crypt that's been covered for so many centuries or whatever. They open up live tarantula on the thing. I'm like, what has that tarantula been doing? And then there's a
thing was
boa
airtight.
constrictor in there. I'm like, that is an airtight container.
Yeah.
How are these things living? And there's not much to eat on that thing anymore.
I like it. Of course, they're super healthy as well. Super healthy tarantula.
And
Wonderful.
A visual I always remember from this movie is because it's the cop that goes into that one that turns into the mummy, and he first goes over to the wax face of China, and he takes a piece of her cheek, like he like cuts into the wax, and then you see when he opens it, it's like all muscle structure underneath, and I was like, oh, that's so messed up. And if I were making wax dummies, I would do that. Just to be like, I'm going to make the whole skeleton, then I'm going to put the
Anatomically
muscles.
correct,
Everything is perfect underneath, even though it just literally had to be wax on top. And no, I want it to be like really real under there. But it was always so visceral when he like chunked that out and then...
Yeah.
Oh,
it's horrible,
horrifying.
that bit.
And I
because you can see all the sinews and muscle.
I feel like, I may be making this up, but I feel like a TV version of this movie has a scene where he goes back and he like tests that in a lab or something, and then it comes back. Because the way, when I watched it this time, he kind of walks off screen, and then we just hear the sound effect of the womb, and then he's in the mummy. And I'm like, this feels like an edit where there was a scene where he actually took it, got it analyzed, and like, oh shit, it's actually her, and then comes back. So I understand why they do it for timing.
I'm glad you said that, because that whole moment confused me. First of all, it confused me that he crossed over and didn't disappear into the other world when he was cutting her cheek off, because he crossed over the barrier.
Well, that is because it had a soul. Once they have a soul, it isn't a portal to the world anymore. These
God,
are
silly
solid
me.
rules.
Of
These are
course,
solid
silly
rules.
me.
I am here to let you know this film is perfect, and they have thought of
course.
everything.
That one has already claimed, of course, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is very strange that he suddenly, because he sets up like he's going to take that off. You're right, take it somewhere. Maybe it's just, well, that's boring. Who cares?
I care. I
Oh.
care about the things that no. I honestly, I think it's a good cut, and it keeps the action moving and doesn't slow it down, because it's like, I go there, I leave, I go there,
Yeah.
I leave, I go
find
there
out.
again, and then I get killed.
Yes.
So
Because they've already done that with the cops. They've been there and they've gone. And he's like, oh, I recognize those people.
the one cop just gets his neck snapped, and then David Warner screams at him. They're like, "We needed him for the ritual. What are you doing?" Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I yelled at you. You see a little human moment of their relationship. They've been doing this for a while.
For a really long time, yeah. Going from face to face. I love the black and white zombie movie that Mark goes into.
Oh, yeah.
It's fab. And that's, he's gone in there. And then Sarah, she's been transported to the set of Dangerous Liaisons.
So I guess the question for me with Sarah is, like, was she always interested in the sadomasochism, or was it because she was staring at it and hypnotizing? Mark says a line later that's kind of like, you were hypnotized by this thing, and that's why you're so obsessed. Because then later, she finds a book in Mark's attic that's like Marquis de Sade, and then it's glowing like it's the opening of like Sleeping Beauty, and they're gonna open the book, and we're gonna hear this.
And it's gonna start
the glorious
the
2D animation of the Marquis de Sade.
Yeah, I thought the same, because not everyone, that doesn't happen to anyone else really, the mesmerization, does it? But she I think she just, it's a burning desire, and it's something she's never lent into. It's something she's buried. It's an urge that she's felt embarrassed about all her life, and she's finally in an environment where she can let her freak flag fly, see if she does like it, and she certainly does. And I don't doubt that after this, the reason she's not in Waxwork 2 is because she is full-time dominatrix. She's into it.
There's a reason she's not in Wax. You know, it's the same character that's in Waxworks too.
But isn't it because she was actually dating?
Yeah, she was dating Anthony Hickox, and they had a very messy breakup, and so she did not come back for part 2. And so Anthony said, well, I'm going to cast someone. I think it's weird to cast someone that looks the same, so I'm going to go completely different. So there's this blonde, tall model who plays Sarah in the next one. Same character, like cuts right from the end of Waxworks to Waxworks 2. Completely different. And just like, all right, I guess she's Sarah now. Cool.
That's
Which I think she did a great job too, but it's an odd choice.
But no, I like to think it's an epiphany. This moment, she finds out, that is my thing.
Well, I just don't think Mark should have shamed her so much.
That's the issue. Yeah, he does.
He kind of shamed, like, you don't want any of that. You don't know anything. Like, she kind of does, which is cool. I understand that it's, her life on the line, and that she's actually going to get, this is too far in this, and that there's, a murder going to happen here. But this might be something she's actually into, and within a safe environment, with a safe word.
Peril.
If she had a safe word, the safe word of Waxwork, then she could be able to enjoy this experience for her, or whatever it is. But I think Anthony really enjoyed that. Like, he said he got very turned on writing that scene.
Okay. Writing it or filming it or both?
Writing it. Like, I think just he said when he was writing
in his 3 days he had a quick...
Yeah, in his 3 days he had a quick, like, oh my.
Ooh.
It's just weird to me that it's also like this we're spending so much time on, where it's like we have the Universal, we have Frankenstein there, we have Invisible Man, we have like the classics, and then it's like Marquis de Sade. We're going all in. 20 minutes of this fun
Big
time.
final 20-minute climax.
Let's do it. That's the most evil villain there is.
Right, it's the most obscure one to end on, but
aside from the weird snake lady, which I still enjoy, and the axe murderer, just the guy in the woods, like the lumberjack, the woodsman lumberjack.
It's hilarious that, and I tried to find out what that was, and somewhere someone written that he represents an urban legend. Like, okay, that's a stretch. What does that mean? That's
okay, sure. But I do know that they tried to get Jason into this movie. They wanted a Friday the 13th display, but the rights were a whole
Well, don't,
thing.
if we're talking about
Yeah, if we're talking about Friday the
rights.
13th, yeah, but this was back in the 80s. The rights,
Right,
they
yeah.
still wouldn't go, no, you can't have him. No, he's ours.
Right,
We're about to send him to New York. It's going to be great.
But yeah, exactly. And wasn't the line about the Phantom of the Opera meant to be, oh, wow, they made films about the Jason murders, apparently.
Yeah, I think that's probably what
Yeah.
it was supposed to be, is that it was going to be, Jason.
Oh, I would have loved that. And it reminds me that, in Critters 2, there's a moment where one of the bounty hunters is looking at a cardboard cutout of Freddy Krueger in a video store, and then he starts to change, but he stops him from changing. And originally they were, the plan was for him to turn into Freddy Krueger and maybe get Robert Englund. So you'd have this one moment where he changes into Robert Englund, and then he's like, no, don't turn into him. But again, they were like, oh no, right.
But New Line owned both of those movies.
That's what's crazy.
Well, I've learned that when you have a big company like that, not everyone gets to interact. Some of the issues.
After that,
it's like you're in charge of the movie part, you're in charge of this, but this is for TV and this is for that, and they all can't talk to each other because they're huge companies. And so it all gets. We think that they're all just fans, and they're like, "Yeah, what we got in the toy chest? Here, go!
Hey, get Jason out!
Yeah, why not? Get him out of there. Get those mothballs off him. It's been 13 years."
I also love the introduction that that Mark's worked out. And listen, and I know you don't like me pulling holes in.
What? I'll fix this hole. Whatever it is, I'm gonna fix it right now. I'm gonna get out
You're ready.
my epoxy. I got script epoxy here. Let's do this.
You're so ready. So there's the simple solution of, if you don't believe it, it can't hurt you. It's like that kind of comes out of nowhere. And it amazingly works. Although it doesn't work for Tony at the beginning when he's going, oh, this isn't real. I'm either on acid or,
because he believes he was hypnotized. So he's believing in the reality of that situation. Epoxied?
You're such an apologist. I love it.
I will say there's a solid script in Waxwork. Which I always called Waxworks growing up, and I always added an S onto there.
I mean, there are more than one.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So, hey, that's fair. And that's well. Then we get the big sort of it's a brawl, isn't it? And that's when you see everything come to life, like the snake lady, the It's Alive baby.
It is in a lot of ways it reminds me of my music video Social Mediasaurus, where this is just his love letter to all of these things. It's like, what can we throw in as a reference there? Here's that one. Here's that one. We got that one over there. Great, but just throw them all in.
Yeah.
I think there was like a weird one shot of like a goblin. Something that was like a green-faced goblin. It just like one quick shot that you don't see ever again. I was like, that was a really cool creature design. What happened?
Yeah, that's the one that I think looks like, is it Meg Mucklebones from Legend?
Yes.
Like a green sort of witchy goblin.
That's exactly what it looked like. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cool. And we've seen these sort of things, whether it's a Cabin in the Woods at the end or
that's the other vibes of like, this is Cabin in the Woods before
Wishmaster
Cabin in the Woods.
Right. Yeah.
It's this massive scene, and it also turns out they shot this scene in one day.
The whole brawl.
They ran out of money. Like the Bond Completion Company was like, you save this to the end? Well, you've got one day to film this entire battle scene. And he did it. And it makes there is no
it's chaos.
It is absolute chaos, and it's random cuts of all kinds of things happening and what's going on, and you have no idea where anything is and who's alive and who's dead at first. So I'm like, oh man, if I ever kill count this movie, this last scene is going to be a nightmare. There's no nice like wide shot of like, okay, here's all the bodies. It's like, I think that person died, and that was a body over there. Is it the same body as that body over there? Because I'm sure continuity-wise makes no sense.
Yeah, and geography-wise,
have
no, like the baby's sat on the evil baby sat on someone's shoulder just watching, and like, where is that in relation to this and that? It's great. It's literally like a northern UK family Christmas. That it's just absolute.
And if you were saying, you're like, I can't find the comedy. He literally grabs Dracula, turns into a bat. Some hand grabs it, and we hear a Clint Eastwood impression off screen and a Magnum go, "Make my day." Boom.
No.
I'm just like, this is a comedy, my friend.
Yeah, fair.
The baby's blown up by like a shotgun. There's swords happening all the time. I think the zombie's killed by a sword, which I'm like, that wouldn't kill the zombie. All right.
Sure.
But the one that always bothered me was was it Michu, the butler?
Yes.
Is fed to the thing that's supposed to be Audrey 2 It goes
Right.
like, feed
Of
me,
course.
and puts it in.
Yes,
But then earlier,
actually says it.
that's from the Body Snatchers. Like,
The
it's
pod.
a pod person coming out of that. That I was like,
Oh,
wait a
so
minute.
then double using it.
They're double using it. So their reality. So here's the hole I'll accept. I will give you this hole that they double use that effect. And I was happy because I love Little Shop of Horrors. And I think there's not enough Killer Plant movies out there.
Yes.
I love it so much that I was like, I'll accept it. But that reality does not make any sense that the pod becomes Audrey 2.
It was a vessel.
It was a vessel. That's all it was.
Okay, that's the
That's the only
one
plot
in the
hole
entire-
in this whole glorious film.
I love it.
I love this movie.
It's
so
wonderful.
fun.
And it burned. They burned it down, and the hand crawls away. And then from what I remember, the second one, it recaps all of that, but then it takes a very different tone.
I mean, we should definitely cover the second one because I got a lot
let's
to
do it.
say. And it's got, Bruce Campbell in there. It's got more
Right.
cameos. It ups the ante on the black and white. And the black and white in that second one is actually one of my favorite vignette things that they did. The haunting parody they did is just glorious.
I can't wait to rewatch. Well, let's do it. We'll say right now on air. We'll re-team up and we will do
I'll
Waxwork 2
absolutely
Lost
talk
in
about
Time.
Waxwork too. I love, and that one pushes more into the comedy aspect and like full on parody of all this stuff and ridiculous things. But still, plenty of gore, less budget, more ambitious, traveling through time.
That's what I
so
love.
many things. And Anthony Hickox as an editor, editors make good directors. It's very true.
I agree.
They know exactly what they need and what they don't need for the thing. And
100%.
they were saying they probably shot like no master shots. Usually it's like we'll do a wide shot of it,
You
then
get
we'll
the
go
big
in,
one,
we'll do the
and then the
close up
close-ups,
and this, and he's just like, okay, we got this shot, say your line, great, moving on to the next one. And that's how he got like 80 setups in a day.
Right, because he knows exactly how it's going to be
gonna-
cut together in his
Yep.
head. That's why I think I love it's Hellraiser 3 is my second favorite Hellraiser film, and that's Anthony Hickox, and I just think it's brilliant, and I think it is that as well. It's so well shot.
I love Hellraiser 3. It's a very fun one, and it's also kind of Little Shop of Horrors in a way, where it's someone feeding people
Right,
to
to
this
the totem with
thing
the-
so he can maintain his fame.
Yes. Okay, fair enough.
And it's the same theme. I mean, it's the same theme as the first one, where Hellraiser 1 is all about feeding people to this love to get
Yes.
what you want and everything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But I love 1 and 3 are, and 4 has one of my favorite decapitations ever. So I will give it that
is
one.
that Bloodline?
Bloodline has.
I did all of these on the Evolution of Horror, the podcast. So we went through every single one of them, and I nearly lost all hope towards the end.
Well, the theatrical ones, and that's the reason I think James has done the theatrical ones kill counted, but not the other ones.
No,
they're really good, and
Yeah.
you can at least have some Doug Bradley, and there's some interesting things. I remember one was about a video game that had Lance Henriksen in it that I was like,
that's Hellworld.
They at least tried something different, so that's okay. But other ones that are just like the same, or
But they were all scripts at Miramax
Yes.
that weren't Hellraiser films, and then he just shoehorned them in. And in some of them, you can literally see it's just Doug Bradley rocks up at the beginning, gets the paycheck, and goes, all of this has been because of me. And then it's like, okay.
Pain is pleasure,
Chains-
pleasure is
chains,
pain.
pleasure, yes.
Chains, you get the
Borderline.
gist. Can I have my money now?
Give me the box. Yes.
Yeah, a chain with like a big check comes down and just like he takes it and then it goes away.
And he goes up with it.
He's like,
That's
bye. Oh, I have such wonderful things to buy with you.
Yeah. And this has been so much fun. Thank you for this.
Oh, absolutely. I love this. I'm so glad we got to do this movie. It was.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, because you'd already done Killer Clowns and like the other ones that were
The
like in the
Gate.
gates and ones I was like, but I'm like Waxwork. No one knows about this movie as much, so it's one
true.
I love introducing people to.
Yeah. I'm really hoping a lot of my listeners will go and check it out if they haven't seen it beforehand.
Because it is available on a couple free.
Oh yeah,
streaming
it's on
services, I think?
Shudder at the moment, I think.
Oh, great.
Definitely in the UK. So tell them where they can find your stuff, like Low Carb Comedy, etc.
Oh, yes. Well, pretty much on all the socials, I am Low Carb Comedy, LOWCARB COMEDY. I'm trying to be more active on Twitter and the social media, so you can actually interact with me if you actually talk on there. I try and
At you.
act with me. I
Act
guess
me.
my
Yes,
acting
act me.
chops. Bring that all around. And I will be returning
Stop trying to make acting chops work.
I'm going to make it work.
Fetch.
I will be returning to the Kill Count with Dude Bro Party Massacre 3. Amazing horror comedy. It's the third one. They never made the first two. They just made the sequel.
Of course.
Done VHS style by the 5 Second Films guys. That'll be October 7th, starting out the Halloween month. And then, yeah, my site is lowcarbcomedy.com or youtube.com/lowcarbcomedy. And I have not updated in over a year. But I'm going to hopefully be fixing that and starting to do some more things. I have some Easter egg videos. My big claim to fame is the Social Mediasicist music video with Jason in high school and all of that. So, yeah, you can find me all of those wonderful places.
Thank you so much. And I hope you have an amazing wedding.
I am going to have an amazing wedding.
You are.
Because I'm marrying an amazing woman.
Well, there you go.
And
that'll do it.
That's what it is. And then there may or may not be dinosaurs there. So we'll see.
What? Okay, I can't wait for this.
I don't know when this is coming out, so it'll probably be after my wedding, so it'll be okay.
No, oh yeah, I think it will be. It will just be after it. Yeah, this will. You're married. Congratulations.
Oh, I'm married now. Yay!
Yes, yay!
Thanks to the miracle of editing, I am now married. You are delightful. I love what you do here, man. And yeah, get these movies the exposure that they need, and I will absolutely return for Waxwork 2.
We're doing it.
And let's get Zach Galligan to come with us. Let's just ask him and see if he wants to talk about it. Yeah, you got his number. You got numbers of all kinds of people.
Shade. He's not busy. No, I'm sure he is. Actually, I checked. He's got like 4 films in production. So there you go.
And I think he's like an acting teacher too. So he's been doing lots of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Love it. All right, dude. Well, go get married, and I will see you for Waxwork 2: Lost in Time.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, that's my sign off.
Well, there you have it. Zoran will be back. We will be covering Waxwork 2: Lost in Time. Strange, I have this on VHS and Blu-ray. In the UK, it was just released as Lost in Time, and I remember seeing it because it's very strange because it ends with a recap, as we were saying, of the first one, but it didn't have any clue that it was a sequel to any other film, so it was very strange if you just picked that up and you hadn't seen the first film. But we'll talk about that when we talk about it. Come and find me on the socials, reach out, say hello. On Twitter and Letterboxd, it's Stevie's Brainrot. On Instagram and Facebook, it's BrainRotPod. You can email me, that's steviesbrainrot@gmail.com. And of course, there is Patreon, where there are so many bonus episodes now. So just go to patreon.com/Stevie's Brainrot to get in on the action. All right, next week, we're going to be talking about Toby Hooper's Sleazy The Funhouse, and I will be having Dream Warriors, Mike Munzer and Becky Dark here to discuss that. Looking forward to that one. It's been a while since I've seen it. Very much looking forward to revisiting it. All right, I shall see you then. Keep it spooky, bitches. Toodles!